the app.
In Falls Church, the funeral for Grace Mann is being held.
There were incidents at dozens of colleges and universities. Yik Yak's founders say that they have made changes to address the complaints they received, like adding filters to flag offensive language. They have also built geofences around roughly 85% of the nation's high schools and middle schools.
Total anonymity gives you freedom perhaps to speak or to explore different thoughts, ideas, possibilities that might be out of the bounds of perhaps your normal social milieu or your physical setting or whatever. But how do you balance the need for anonymity in very real situations, the political dissident, the abused spouse, etc., versus the growing trend of just intolerant speech online?
As social media connects more people than ever before, its success depends on companies policing their sites so that racists, criminals, and bullies do not make their presence known.
The really mean-spirited things that people say is just mind-boggling.
Content moderators like Alex Schrum patrol the cyber frontier. Their full-time job is to remove offensive material from social networking sites. For content moderators like Alex, it's a grim workday, and the burnout rate is high.
You say something offensive to someone online, you can't see their physical reaction in their face. You can't see how hurt they feel. So there's no human aspect to it, and you feel like you can kind of there's no consequences for your actions.
It desensitizes us. When we go online, we're not looking at each other, and empathy is born in the gaze, in the eye contact, in the face.
Sherry Turkle has spent the last 30 years studying the psychology of people's relationships with technology.
There's been a 40% drop among young people, among college students, in the capacity for empathy in the last 20 years, with most of the change taking place in the past 10.
Content moderation requires a human touch. No amount of programming or algorithms can do this work, especially when it comes to imagery.
A lot of the images that come through are sexually explicit, sometimes sexually violent, or very gruesome.
The constant stream of troubling words and pictures takes a toll. On average, moderators last somewhere between 3 and 6 months before quitting. Some have even reportedly developed post-traumatic stress disorder.
You leave work at the end of the day feeling a little down, a little depressed, kind of lose your faith in humanity a little bit. My mantra for moderators is moderate in moderation. If you're doing it all day, every day, whether it's images or content or videos or anything else, you'll feel like your whole world is negativity.
This business is often kept in the shadows intentionally. The large companies who hire content moderators don't advertise that reportedly half of their workforce is doing this type of work. They don't want the public to know that there's actually a huge need to police their sites.
Most people don't know that there's this whole other side to the internet where there are people working really hard to prevent you from seeing some of the more negative things that get posted online, which there are a lot of. I don't think we'll ever get rid of kind of the dark corners of the internet where the seedy people go to do what they'll always do. I think it's inevitable, and it's just part of human nature, and it's going to be a part of the internet as long as the internet is around.
Some governments have also taken action to gain control of the web.
Take China, for example. They've built what's known as the Great Firewall. It's a sophisticated system of filters that blocks out anything the Chinese government deems undesirable. So if you're in China and you search for persecution, you'll get a blank screen that says page not available. You get the same kind of results if you search for Tibetan independence or democracy movements. Websites like the New York Times, Time Magazine, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and most of Google are also blocked. There's no denying that someone's always watching you.
They also are implementing highly controversial surveillance, which they call the Golden Shield Project, using speech and face recognition, closed-circuit television, and other internet surveillance technologies. The Chinese government hopes to create a gigantic online database of each and every one of its citizens. And several years ago, China insisted that Yahoo turn over account information that ended up helping the government track and imprison journalists, 2 of which were then sentenced to 10 years in prison. The incident attracted so much attention that Congress held a hearing where an outraged congressman told Yahoo executives,
"While technologically and financially you are giants, morally you are pygmies."
Yahoo has since apologized for the incident.
Censorship has gone global. France and Germany have laws banning Nazi propaganda. And in Australia, there have been a series of proposed laws to block pirated materials and protect children. Now, those are worthy goals, but it does make you wonder where this might lead.
Increasingly, what we see is that different forces, political and economic, are making the internet less free than we had hoped. The United States government and other governments are going to platforms like Twitter and Facebook and asking them, what are you going to do about this jihadist speech? What are you going to do to limit it? And are you going to help us get rid of it? And for people who are connecting, are you going to help us find out who's interested in this ideology?
CNN breaking news.
Breaking news this evening.
Breaking news, the whistleblower revealed the 29-year-old who leaked those top secret details of the government's sweeping surveillance program is now come forward.
My name's Ed Snowden.
Edward Snowden's infamous revelations set off a ripple effect that is still traveling throughout the digital world.
Leaked documents suggested the NSA was tapping directly into the servers of firms like Google, Facebook, and Apple.
By all appearances, it's a top secret program that's been going on for years.
The public needs to decide whether these programs and policies are right or wrong.
Snowden worked for the National Security Agency and leaked thousands of classified documents that revealed the government was collecting the communication records of perfectly average folks, people like you and me. They were, in essence, spying on millions of Americans. We caught up with him in Russia, where he is in exile. He says that we should consider how far the government will go with that information.
One of the common questions that people have when they think about the surveillance problem, when they think about all of the data that's being collected by corporations and government, is why do people get so angry when the spies are doing it, when the government is doing it? When they say they're trying to do it to save lives. The answer, as far as we can tell today, is that the participation with these private companies is largely voluntary. You're opting in to use Facebook. You're signing up for a Google account. You're agreeing to the terms of service on Twitter. And there's also a difference in the level of power that these different sets of actors can bring to bear. Google can spy on your email and serve you ads that they think are relevant to your interest. The government can put you in jail or drop a bomb on you.
The revelations sparked by Edward Snowden and continuing through the last several years, frankly, I think have reshaped the conversation in this country, certainly, and really around the world.
We know that the internet and much of the digital world was an American invention. Once it went global, that meant to the rest of the world that the United States was holding the keys to cyberspace. But once the Snowden incident happened, things began to change. Non-Americans began not to trust us. They were concerned that Big Brother, or rather Uncle Sam, was watching. Americans also did not want to accept that their technological life had to come at the price of possible surveillance. As a result, internet sovereignty is inching forward, where we may become a world where the web literally splinters along geographic boundaries, also known as the splinternet.
One of the probably most compelling threats to a truly global internet right now are the calls for data localization and in-country servers and the application of one country's laws over another.
Right now, we enjoy an internet that is a global network of people and institutions that we have come to rely on. It is open, flexible, and efficient. But if the internet becomes the splinternet, it would become a rigid system with impenetrable borders, and critics argue it would also lead to a system even more vulnerable to government abuse. Another online threat goes beyond invading your virtual space to actually invading your personal space.
Police department, search warrant! Police department, search warrant! Put your hands up! Put your hands up! Get on the ground!
It's called swatting. It is an internet prank where someone finds out your home address and calls 911 to report a fake emergency. And just a few years ago, one went down in a suburb of Atlanta. It began with this 911 call.
I killed the mom, I killed the dad, and I killed the little boy in the house. I got the little girl right here. I need $30,000. You want $30,000 to keep from killing the girl? Yeah. Okay.
I was at work and I received a phone call from one of our caregivers, and she said, something strange is going on. There's been some sort of 911 call, an emergency, and there's all of these police officers here at the house.
It was early January 2014. It was about 4:20 something in the afternoon. My lieutenant came down the hallway and stuck his head in my door and he goes, "Hey, did you just hear that call?" And he said, "Yeah, we got a person shot, at least 2 shot, and a hostage situation."
I mean, I really felt like, no, this can't really be happening, but when I could not reach anyone to get that reassurance, that's when it really just, your head starts thinking crazy things, and, what if there is some crazy person in my house? The